Okay, so this is where I last left you off before I went on my trip. Nightmare trip. Back at it again with another video. This time it's going to be a shorter one, around 5 minutes or so or whatever. But it's because I'm getting ready to take my first vacation that I probably is probably long overdue. Heading to Mexico, and so the podcast isn't going to be out on time. So on our trip, we went from this to this. And let me tell you how it all unfolded. Stay tuned. Midlife Crisis Podcast. Back at it again, it's your boy Fitz. This time coming at you with a story from Mexico. I went on vacation, but it turned out to be a nightmare. Let me tell you about all the things that happened, and let me tell you how you can avoid going through what I went through. Even me speaking Spanish down there, it helped a little bit, but I'm going to tell you how you can avoid paying way too much money. We spent probably over $3,000 in Mexico, and we probably spent about another $400 out of network and $150 co-pays, but we spent a lot of money. Let's get into this. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who donated to the GoFundMe, because my wife set up this GoFundMe saying that we really needed it. She used my account to set up the GoFundMe, and I just want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot, even though I didn't want to do it. My wife said we needed it, because I didn't think we were going to go over $6,000 in debt just in medical bills from what happened on our trip. I really appreciated it, and I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. The first couple days in Puerta Vallarta, Mexico, it was awesome because I'd never been there before, and my wife hadn't been there either. And we went with some good friends. And the first day we get there, we're checking out the resort. We're staying at the Rio Vallarta in Mexico. And, everything's great. We're going around. We're checking things out. We decided we're just going to kick it there for the first night. And we go to some of the we go to the buffet. We go get some drinks. We hang out on the beach. Me and my wife go for a walk on the beach. Everything is great. The next day, we decide we're going to do one of those timeshare things so we can get free, free amenities, which was a booze cruise. So we did that, which was a freaking nightmare. They said it was only going to be an hour and a half long. It ended up being almost 2.5 hours long. But we ended up getting the free, booze cruise and something else. I forget what it was, but we didn't want to do that. I think it was an ATV, something. I forget what it was. But anyway, we do the booze cruise the next day after that. So we're on day 3. We do the booze cruise. We go to Jalapa, and Jalapa is beautiful. The ocean, you go out to your chest, and it feels like it's trying to suck you back out into the ocean. But it is beautiful there. I really don't trust these, booze cruises, because they started charging us $5 for a can of Coke, which was bullshit in my mind because I don't pay for $5 for a can of Coke back home. In Mexico, it's supposed to be cheaper. And when I lived in Mexico, everything was cheaper. I don't know if they saw us coming from a mile away or what. But anyway, that night, we go back to our hotel. And my wife says, my stomach doesn't feel that great. I don't want to drink anything. So we go out as a group with our 2 other friends. By the way, I'm so sorry that this happened. But anyway, we go out. My wife's not drinking at this point. But me and my 2 other friends we have a couple of shots of tequila, and then we decide to go into town, and we're going to do dinner. So we go into town, we do dinner, we have a great meal, we decide to go walk around the town, checked out the church, checked out the culture, checked everything out, and it was awesome. The town there was awesome, I'm not going to lie. So after that, we go back to our hotel at the Rio, and I make myself a drink. My wife's like, my stomach kind of hurts. I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe you should just lay down. So I'm sitting there drinking on my drink while she's laying there, and I fall asleep, and I wake up probably a couple hours later. I can hear her, and she tells me my joints ache, my whole body aches. I just don't feel good at all. And I said, okay, what's going on? She's like, I think it's my gallbladder, which she's always had an issue with her gallbladder. But it's never been this bad. So she gets up to go to the bathroom. While she's going to the bathroom, she collapses, like totally down to her knees. And I pick her up and I help her into the bathroom. She said, I'm in so much pain. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? She's like, nothing, it's just bladder pain. It goes away, usually within like 3-4 hours, whatever. So I put her back in bed, I fall asleep, and I wake up in the morning, and I wake up and she's still in pain. A lot of pain. Like, I've never seen her like this before. Usually when she has a gallbladder attack, it's gone within 4 or 5 hours, and she can get through it. This time she can't. I said, do you want to get something to eat, or I can bring you something up to eat to the room? She's like, I want to go down and try to get something to eat. So we go down to the buffet, and she can't do it. She needs to get up. And as we're walking back from the buffet to our room, she goes, she's like, I can't. She's like, I feel like I'm going to black out. So I tell somebody at the front desk that my wife is about to black out, and they get the resort doctor there. The resort doctor says, okay, go back to your room. So we go back to her room. And then about an hour later, yeah, I'm not kidding, an hour later, and she already knows this shit's going on. An hour later, the resort doctor shows up and comes in and says, oh my God, you look so bad. It's got to be your gallbladder if you have gallbladder pain. Which really pisses me off because my wife's laying there in extreme pain, but the doctor pulls out a needle and just like sticks it in her. And I look at the doctor and I'm like, just in case you didn't know, she's not allergic to anything because she just stuck this needle in her without asking anything. So I'm kind of pissed off at this point, and she makes me hold this, it's like a jug, but it's hooked up to an IV going into her. Okay, well cool, they're going to try something. But I'm like, just in case you didn't know, she's not allergic to anything. Looks at me all weird. And the drugs that she put into the syringe gave her a shot. She dropped on the floor. There's glass everywhere at this point. She's all, she needs to go to the ER right now by ambulance. And I said, okay. So I walk her up front and wait for the ambulance to get there. The ambulance gets there, and as I'm getting into the back of the ambulance, the resort doctor grabs me by the arm. I go, yes? She goes, we need to settle your bill. I'm like, you can't wait till I get back? No. We need $360 just for me to give you, or for me to give her a shot. I said, are you kidding me? And she goes, yeah, it's $360. I go, why is it $360? Now, mind you, I lived in Mexico before, and I've had issues where I've had to go to the doctor. And I've been to the doctor, and I've had shots, and it's not $360. Maybe because we're in the tourist zone it is. So I end up fighting with her, and she goes, I'll tell the ambulance not to leave. I'll tell them not to leave, and they won't leave. And I look at the ambulance driver, and he goes, yeah, we're not going to leave. I said, well, that's complete bullshit. And I looked at her, and I said, you should be ashamed of yourself putting money over patient care. She goes, no, we don't do that. And I go, yeah, you just did that. So I end up paying her because I got to get my wife to the hospital. We get to the hospital, and I'm following my wife back. They go, no, you don't get to follow her back. You have to go up front. I go, why do I have to go up front? I want to be with my wife. They're like, nope, you don't get to be with your wife. You have to go up front first. So literally, I go up front, and it's all about money again. They need 40,000 pesos before they can even go in. I said, you have a sign out front that says you accept American insurance. And they said, yeah, we do. And I go, okay, well, I have it. I throw my card at him, and he looks at it, and he goes, okay, whatever. He's all, but I still need the 40,000 pesos. So I put down $2,000 American. And he said it's just a deposit. Bullshit, because they take it out of your account as soon as they get it. And the deposit is for all the things they do. All the testing they do. And they're charging you more than American prices. They're charging you $300 for saline. They're charging you double the price for x-rays. They're charging you double the price for everything. So, whatever. I put it down. I pay for it. And they have a surgeon on call and they have a doctor on call. One of the doctors doesn't speak English at all, which is fucking weird to me because usually when I talk to the doctors, they speak both. So I'm speaking to her in Spanish, and she's telling me, well, we did some tests and your wife's kidney might have ruptured and there might have been a little bit of bile that leaked into her system and that's why she's bad. Turned out to be bullshit because I'll tell you later on in the story. But then they said she had a bladder infection. Complete bullshit also. And the only thing they got right was her white blood cell count was kind of high. Which really pissed me off. Because we went through that deposit in like 2 seconds. I mean, it was gone after all the testing. I said, are you kidding me? I said, what do people make here in Puerta Vallarta? And this guy tries to tell me, well, people can afford this. I go, no, they can't. I go, I know what people make. I lived here. I know what minimum wage is. I know what median wage is here. And no one can afford this. He goes, well, I could. I go, how much money do you make? He goes, well, about 900 pesos a day. I go, so you make about 45 bucks a day. I go, that's what I make an hour. And I can't afford this. So you're lying to me. And at that point, as I'm telling him this, the ambulance driver walks back in. He goes, hey, we need $800 American. I said, are you fucking kidding me? That's when I switched to Spanish. And I go, I've had friends who have been in ambulance rides, and it's $100. I go, why is it $800 for me? And I'm just letting him have it. He goes, well, let me talk to my boss and see what I can do. He comes back in after talking to his boss, and magically it's $360. And I told him I don't want to pay that either. He goes, well, you have to pay it. And I go, who's going to make me pay it? He's all the police. I go, well, get him here then. And he comes back in and he goes, look, this is our prizes. He's like, it's for you, it's for everybody. He's like, I'm not lying. So I pay him because I don't want to deal with the police in Mexico. I don't want to go spend a night in jail. I pay it. And at that point, you know, we're almost $3,000. $3,000 gone. And it gets worse because they're like, okay, she has the kidney thing, she has the bladder thing, and her gallbladder might need to come out, but we don't have a surgeon here who can really do that, which becomes a common theme through the whole process of this because it gets better. Okay, so I call everybody I can think of. I even call a non-profit for veterans to see if they can fly my wife out, because that's what they do. That's what the non-profit does. Sorry, we don't deal with Mexico. So I get a hold of Alaska Airlines, and say, hey, can you please change our tickets earlier going home? No, we can't do that because you book through a package. Okay, call the package and tell them Expedia. They're like, yeah, we can change it, but it's going to cost you $150. I said, are you kidding me? My wife almost died. And that's what they told us in the hospital in Vallarta was if your wife would have went to sleep last night, she would have died, or tonight, she would have died. So they're telling me all this bullshit. And it just pisses me off to no end. So we get our flights changed. And mind you, my wife's still in pain. I'm helping her getting up, going to the bathroom. I'm helping her do everything, change her clothes, because she's never been in this kind of pain before. We go to the airport the next day because our flights change, and we go up to the counter, and my wife can't even walk. Her face is numb, her legs are numb, she can't even walk. So I got her in a wheelchair, and the lady at the desk says, she can't fly. And I go, yes she can. She says, oh no, she cannot fly. She needs to be cleared by a doctor. And I go, do you have a doctor here? And she goes, yeah. And I go, well, I have no money. You guys took it all here. You guys took every dime that I have. Is it free? And she goes, maybe. And I go, so if I don't have any money, she won't be able to fly? She says, well, the doctor will come out and check on you. So they have a doctor in the airport in Vallarta who comes over, checks her out, and says she's fine to fly. Which... we get on the plane, she's in pain the whole flight, and it's 2.5 hours. And with this flight, it's 2.5 hours to Los Angeles, because they didn't have any direct flights to Portland. Well, we get to Los Angeles, and she's getting off the plane, and we're going to our next gate to get back to Oregon. And one of the flight attendants notices that she's in pain and says, "Hey, you can't fly any farther. You're in so much pain." And she calls an ambulance. Ambulance shows up. She tells her it's probably my gallbladder, but we don't know because we've had 3-4 diagnoses from Mexico. We just don't know what's going on. And they're like, "Oh, you need to go to the hospital." So we go to Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, Marina Del Rey. I don't know if you've ever been to that hospital, but they're in the process of remodeling, but that place is a shithole. Shithole. I'm not even joking. The waiting area is so small. It's probably as big as this room that I'm in right now. And they won't let me come in and be with her. They make me stay out front 30 feet in a fucking tent. So I have to sit outside and wait till she gets a room, if they want to give her a room. So they come out and say, "Yeah, we're going to admit your wife. We'll come out in 15 minutes to get you." 2 hours passes, and they finally come out and get me. Now, her dad and stepmom have flown in to come see her, because they are worried about her, because they saw her on FaceTime, and they are worried. They don't know what's going on. They do all these tests, and they say, "Well, your gallbladder looks fine. We don't know what's going on with you." But to me, it's like, why did you only check the gallbladder? And if she had a flare-up, why would you make her sit in the waiting room for 2 hours until the flare-up was gone? But later it comes out that they don't have a surgeon on call that even knows how to do gallbladders. Has never done gallbladders. So the truth was, they wanted to take her gallbladder out, but they didn't have a surgeon who could do it. There are fucking 9-10 hospitals in Los Angeles, and we get the one that has a surgeon that doesn't know how to do gallbladders. Are you kidding me? It's bullshit. So we have a hotel thanks to her dad, but we're like 2 blocks from Crenshaw Boulevard. I mean, this neighborhood is just scary. Anyway, we get to the hotel, and she's feeling a little better. Fall asleep for like 2 or 3 hours. Guess what? Her gallbladder flares up again. I wake up. She's in the bathroom. She can barely breathe. Her face is going numb again. She can barely breathe. Everything's going really bad. So I'm rubbing her back, trying to get her to... I don't know what's going on. Maybe a panic attack on top of that too. And then 4 hours later, she's feeling a little better. Get her back into bed. She sleeps. And she wakes up. She goes, "I'm feeling good, but I'm not feeling great. I have a headache. I have a sore throat. My neck won't turn. Face is feeling numb. Gallbladder still hurts like shit." So we decide that we're just going to wait and get on the plane. So we get on the plane back to Oregon. We fly back to Oregon. And when we get here, she goes to the ER immediately. They do a workup. Definitely her gallbladder. But here's what Mexico and Marina del Rey, Los Angeles didn't catch. She had strep throat. She had a deep sinus infection. She had T-wave I think it's T-wave abnormalities on her EKG, which that means more extensive testing. So, shame on Marina del Rey, shame on Puerta Vallarta. I mean, you're having all these issues. She had 3 different things going on, and they couldn't find a single one. So they moved her surgery. It's coming up this Tuesday. Because of all the antibiotics she's on for the strep throat and sinus infection, they moved it back. But they said if her gallbladder pain gets worse, bring her in, they're going to take it out. Why the fuck does it take us to go back to Oregon to figure this shit out? Why? I don't get it. And then after that, she's got to meet with cardiologists to see why she had T-wave abnormalities. That's her heart. So, what's going on? I don't know. I was told 6 different things in Mexico. I was told it was nothing in Los Angeles, but it took to getting back to Oregon to tell me what was going on. So, one of the things you want to do when you travel is look at your insurance. Because here's one of the big deals that I ran into was in Mexico they told me they accepted insurance at the ER. And I said, okay, here's my card. He hands me my card and he says, we don't accept your insurance. Providence. Which is a great insurance in the United States. And I said, why don't you take it? He goes, well, sometimes they try to fight us on the bill and they don't pay everything. I go, okay, so take it, let them cover what they can, and then take it out of my deposit. And he goes, no, we're just not going to do it. We were told not to. I go, oh, well, what if I told you I had Champ VA? He goes, we don't take that either. Okay, what if I told you I had Kaiser? Yeah, we're not going to take that either. Everything I threw at him, he said, we don't take it. Which doesn't seem right to me. And it pisses me off. So, was it just because I'm an American tourist and they think I'm fucking loaded or something? Because that's what it felt like. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. And tell me what insurance you have, and has it covered you overseas? Because before you go overseas, research your insurance, because shit happens. Also on that, make sure you know where you're staying, who you're staying with, and if they have a resort doctor or if there's a hospital nearby, because you might need it. Because we're pretty sure we didn't need it. Or make sure that you have good health before you go. Make sure you have a way to get out of that country to go home if you need to. Because it could come down to it. But so after doing this, I researched a bunch of like insurances. They have a bunch of insurances that cover you while you're overseas. It might cost you a pretty penny. But I ran into somebody who was in the ER from Canada. And I said, is that your husband back there that I saw when I saw my wife in the ER? And she goes, no, my husband's in the ICU and I've already spent over $100,000. So I got talking to her. Same thing for Canadians too. Over $100,000. So make sure you have cash. But let me go to another story. I've heard a story of a friend who was in Mexico who had appendicitis. It was so bad that he went to the ER and he was laying on the ground in the ER, and they wouldn't even treat him until he had a $1,500 deposit. That was 20 years ago. Now it's probably like $3,000. So before you go anywhere overseas, make sure your insurance covers or you have the cash to do it. Because I don't know whose fault it is. It might be my insurance company, like he said, they don't pay. Or it might be the country that you're in. So make sure you know how you can be treated before you go. Stresses me out. Bills are through the roof, but like I said before, thank you to everyone who donated to my wife's GoFundMe that she set up, even though I didn't want to do it, but it was probably the right thing to do because bills would have swept us alive. And we probably wouldn't, we didn't have money to make it to the end of the month. And this is really helping us put some gas in the car and some food on the table so I can go to work and work some overtime. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And hopefully when you go on vacation, this helps you so you're covered next time.